Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to episode 6 of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. Your home for everything wrestling and pop culture twisted together in one beautiful piece of DNA. I am your host, the Prince of Pop Culture, Xander Invictus, joined as always by my co-host, the gorgeous one and only BigBoct. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great today. Are you doing okay?
I am doing well as myself, thank you.
Good deal.
We are doing the attractions part of the podcast this week, and I'm excited. This one, we're actually doing a grown-up movie. We're not doing a family movie or a comedy. This is quite the grown-up movie. We are doing a personal favorite of mine, and one that you had not seen up to this point, but we are doing the Tony Scott classic, True Romance. I am super excited for this.
Yeah, I went into this completely blind, just the way I like it. And I'm looking forward to talking about it with you.
This is, for a lot of people that have seen this is considered a cult classic. Like I said, you had Tony Scott directing this, who, among other movies, well, not only that, he was the brother of Ridley Scott, who a lot of people know specifically from, like, Alien, Gladiator, and all kinds of other movies. Tony, his younger brother, did other, on top of this movie, did movies such as Top Gun, Man on Fire, which is a great Denzel Washington movie. I highly recommend that one. Domino, with not the Marvel character. This is based on a real-life bounty hunter played by Keira Knightley. Has Keira Knightley, Mickey Rourke, all kinds of characters in it. And Beverly Hills Cop 2. Both very prolific directors.
Yeah, quite a resume.
Yeah, and this is also written by, speaking of famous directors with resumes, this was written by by none other than Quentin Tarantino.
I haven't seen a lot of his stuff, but I do know his name.
Oh yeah, like we'll definitely get into this. And it surprised me because in doing the research for scheduling, researching for this movie, I had no idea that I had thought Reservoir Dogs, which was his directorial debut, came out after this. But it actually came out the year prior. It actually came out in 92. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino goes on to write not only this, but Natural Born Killers. He's directed Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, which is my personal favorite of his, Django Unchained, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Kill Bill Part 1 and 2. He did half of the Grindhouse double feature. So between directing and writing, we got some AAA talent right here.
Oh yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they put together.
So this movie was released on September 10th, 1993. I was a good old 11 years old. And we open up in a dive bar, which is a personal preference of mine. I love going to dive bars and pubs and that sort of thing. We see our main character, Clarence Worley, played by Christian Slater, one of many, many well-received big-name actors in this movie. He is at a dive bar talking about Elvis. He's a huge fan of Elvis. It plays a big part in this movie. With a woman named Lucy, who I looked up. Once again, this is one of those situations where the actress looks familiar and you can't place them, so you wiki them and see what movies they're in. I had to do this. Lucy was played by a lady named Anna Thompson, who I remember, she was the receptionist in the first Bad Boys movie, which I believe came out in 95.
Oh, interesting little note there.
Yeah, like it was one of those where it's like, oh, that's who that is. Let me double check here. Let's say was I right? 95, I was right.
Good deal.
So, basically, he's flirting with her. He's like, hey, you got to worry about, talking about how Elvis is. And apparently, according to them, we're going to go ahead and preface this with, maybe this episode may not be for a lot of kids. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on. We're probably going to do more cussing than usual just because of the language.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
And a lot of violence. So basically, according to both of them, they would both fuck Elvis. They love Elvis. And apparently, according to their common interests, they want to get Elvis in bed. I mean, hey, in his prime, he was a good-looking dude. To each their own.
Yeah, so they're making chit-chat for a while. Then Clarence says, let's go see a Sonny Chiba triple feature.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the part that broke my heart, she's like, you want to go see a Kung Fu movie? And she goes, no. Like, she's like, who's Sonny Chiba? And that killed me. Because if a date doesn't want to go to any Kung Fu movies with me, I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. For those that don't know Sonny Chiba, he was a legendary actor in the Kung Fu style movies. And they do talk about the triple feature he mentions is probably 3 of his most famous movies. Street Fighter, Return to Street Fighter, and Sister Street Fighter.
Yeah, I inferred from they were martial arts movies. I hadn't heard of Sonny Chiba at that time, and then they're talking a little more. And he's one of the actors. He's not the director.
No, he is the actor. Like, he's the Street Fighter.
Right.
And also, for the modern fans, and I only know this because my favorite all-time franchise, and I'm unabashedly unashamed of this, is the Fast and the Furious.
You've talked about that before. Those are just ridiculous action movies now, right?
Yeah, and it's my favorite franchise, and I will not be taking any questions on that matter. He's actually in the third, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, the main bad guy's uncle. He plays some sort of crime boss, so it was kind of a big deal. You're watching a movie taking place in Tokyo, and here is good old Sonny Chiba, looking like he could still whoop somebody's ass.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's pretty cool.
But basically, I was like, hey, I'm like him. Hey, if you don't want to go to these kung fu movies, hey, kick rocks. So, we go to the opening credits, and a taxi pulls up with our other main character, drops him off at the same theater where they're having the Kung Fu triple feature. A lady by the name of Alabama, who was played by Patricia Arquette, heads into the same theater. And I was doing research about this. There was actually somebody, a well-named actor, whose cameo as an usher was cut out of this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Jack Black was actually had a cameo as a theater usher in this scene, but was cut for probably posterity and flow and that sort of thing.
Well, I see. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. So she goes in, she's got her popcorn and her drink, she dumps her popcorn on Clarence. In hindsight, once we realize what happens else, I couldn't tell if this was an accident or this was, her getting his attention. And so she basically gets behind him, hey, fills it on, fill her in on what's happening in the movie. And for those that do like these movies, have seen these movies, the movie he is watching currently is The Return of the Street Fighter. So we're likely movie 2 into this movie trilogy marathon.
Right.
So that's the movie they're watching. So usually, I'm a big movie fan. I love going to the movie theaters. I have the Cinemark app. I go to the theaters as much as I can. I'm a Chinese food guy. Yeah, I go to see Chinese. I go to get Chinese food after movies. That's my tradition. They decide to go get pie. I like pie.
Who doesn't?
Everybody's got their thing. So they're sitting there. They seem to be hitting off one. He asks her so many damn questions, and I'm like, dude, slow it with the questions. Getting a little too thick there. Yeah, and she mentions that she doesn't like Persians, and I'm like, wait a minute. Just so we get into this, do you not like the rugs or the people? We never really get, that was just a little quiz, like, oh, you don't like rugs or you don't like the people in general? Okay. So he takes her back to his place, or a place basically he stays at work, which is basically a dope-ass comic book shop.
Yeah, he was showing that off to her, and she's all into it.
Oh, yeah, like, she instantly, she likes so much comic books so much that, they start having sexy times.
Oh, yes.
So they go into this, and he wakes up and finds her. She's out on a billboard, and she's crying. And basically, she's brand new. She confesses that she was a call girl. She's only had 3 Johns in 4 days. And this was actually basically hired by his boss at the comic book shop to
give him a nice birthday.
And she confesses that she's very monogamous. This is not really what she wants to do.
Right.
She's a very monogamous person. She actually does explicitly say monogamy. And sooner or later, it cuts them eloping at the courthouse, and they get married.
Yeah, that's where right here is where we find out Clarence's last name, Worley.
Yes. And next thing you do is we see him at a tattoo parlor, which, by the way, love the Billy Idol. They're playing White Wedding by Billy Idol in the tattoo parlor.
Yeah, that's a song I actually know from Rock Band. It's a great song.
Oh, it's a fantastic song. And she makes a tattoo 101 boo-boo. She's getting her husband's name tattooed on her.
Yeah, you don't do that because you never know what might happen in the future.
Exactly. I have 4 tattoos myself. And when it comes to names, and I knew this before I got any, but there's only certain names that you actually put on yourself. I usually like your mom, put your mom's name. A lot of people will put their children's names on it, and I get that. Or the only time you really put anybody else's name on you, especially like a spouse, a girlfriend, significant other, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
You put that on you as a memorial maybe after they pass away.
Gotcha.
Because you don't want to, tattoos are permanent for the most part. Like, they have the laser thing, but it's extremely painful and you can still see splotches.
Right, yeah.
Basically, tattoos are permanent. Like I said, I have 4 myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you don't, it's not You know, they don't call those the career killers. Those are the ones that you put like on your hands or your face.
Right.
But it's not a bad thing. It's just bad juju, basically.
I got you.
So she starts talking about a gentleman named Drexel, and we find out quickly that this is her pimp, and about how Drexel has smacked around a friend of hers, and obviously this angers Clarence. The whole, hey, why are you smacking ladies around?
Right.
And we meet Drexel we cut back to Drexel for the first time. He's in a hotel room. Drexel is played by the legendary Gary Oldman.
Yeah, backtracking for a sec, the cast in this movie is absolutely stacked.
Oh, we haven't even begun how stacked this is.
So Drexel's talking to a character, I didn't catch the name, Big D, played by Samuel L. Jackson of all people.
Exactly. So yeah, and the thing is, Gary Oldman is probably in this movie a grand total of 10 minutes.
And it's still a very memorable performance.
Yeah, it's considered one of his most iconic roles. This just shows you how good he is as an actor and what he's able to do with the material, to the point that people have seen him in, like I said, this, Leon the Professional, which hopefully we can get to, the Dark Knight trilogy. He was Commissioner Gordon. He was in Bram Stoker's Dracula. He played Dracula. He was in Hannibal, the second of the Anthony Hopkins Silence of the Lamb movies. He transforms himself so much. He's a classically trained British actor. And I read about this about him because he's basically a chameleon of some sort when he does his movie roles. He changes his accent so much in every role he does. You know how a lot of times you'll go to some sort of language specialist, especially when you do movie roles, the person that does it, dialect coach, thank you. I couldn't think of it. Dialect coach that, can teach you about different accents and inflections to make sure you get the best accent you have for the role.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, but I can absolutely get why it is. Now you've mentioned it.
But the thing is, though, Gary Oldman changed his accent so much in all his movies. He basically sounds different in every movie.
Right.
He had to go see a dialect coach to get his original accent back.
Wow, that's some dedication.
So he changed his voice so much he lost his actual God-given voice and had to go see a dialect coach to get it back.
Yeah, wow.
So anyways, Big Don, which was the character played by Samuel L. Jackson, who I'm like, Sam Jackson in a movie? I'm in. So basically they're talking about how one of the, I imagine this was a like a goon or some sort of associate of Sam Jackson's character, had never gone down on a woman.
Yeah.
Drexel's in there with a friend of his, Marty. Marty was the name of the large black fellow that Drexel was with, like his right-hand man or his dude.
If I can cut in for a sec, it looked like I saw Snoop Dogg in there somewhere.
I didn't. No, he wasn't in there. He's not in this movie.
Okay, that's my mistake then.
He talks to the other gentleman about going down on a lady. He's like, I'm going to show you a demonstration. He throws him a shotgun. So not only does Drexel shoot the unarmed guy, he also kills Sam Jackson, whose screen time in this movie was less than 2 minutes.
He still got top billing.
Yeah, like he's in this, but you don't realize, he's gone. And they both, Drexel and Marty walk off with a suitcase full of cocaine, that's going to play a big pivotal part in this movie, is that cocaine.
Yeah, it's the MacGuffin.
It's the MacGuffin. Clarence and Alabama are back at his place watching a Chow Yun-Fat movie. I couldn't recognize which movie that was, but I definitely recognized Chow Yun-Fat in there, who's, Hard-Boiled the Killer, Replacement Killers, Bulletproof Monk. He was an action star in Hong Kong before he came to America to do like I said, stuff like the Replacement Killers, Bulletproof Monk, that sort of thing.
Yeah, was he the one in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
I think so. He was. Yeah, he was also in the live-action Dragon Ball movie.
Ew.
Yeah, he was the what's the older gentleman's name in Dragon Ball?
Master Roshi.
Yeah, he played Master Roshi in the live-action Dragon Ball movie.
Yeah, Clarence takes a potty break while in the middle of the movie, and he starts talking to someone. I think he's having a conversation like with his subconscious.
Yeah, it's basically what it is that it's credited as his mentor. It's Elvis. He's talking to Elvis.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, he's talking to Elvis. And speaking of not picking up on this, people don't realize that there was another A-lister actor playing Elvis in this movie.
Who was that?
That was Val Kilmer.
Oh, that's where Val Kilmer was in here. Okay.
That was Val Kilmer. You don't see his face. It's basically just from torso down, but you see the outfit. It's Elvis. He's talking like this, baby. Like, this is the whole Elvis thing that, Elvis plays a big part in this indirectly. That's Val Kilmer.
Uh-huh.
That's not the only musician Val Kilmer's played. He played Jim Morrison in The Doors, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which I've yet to hear. I've heard great things about it. I've yet to see it. But yeah, he's played both Jim Morrison and Elvis.
Quite a reputation.
Yeah, so basically Elvis, the vision he has of Elvis, convinces him he needs to go to kill Drexel, basically to free Alabama of her bonds. He goes over to Alabama, basically convinces her, hey, I'm just going to go over there. He hides a gun in his sock.
Right.
And he goes over to her and goes, hey, I'll be back. I'm just going to go pick up your stuff. This is done. And she finally convinces him, or he finally convinces her. He goes in there. And we get to probably this is the part that everybody remembers about Drexel. And surprisingly, Clarence seems to be like a relatively easygoing, calm guy up until this point.
Yeah, very laid back.
Yeah, but when he goes over there to Drexel, he gets hard. He goes hard, like almost like a different person. He gets like steel nerves going into this guy's place.
Very incongruous with the way he'd been acting before.
But to me, it also kind of fit because he like basically, hey, this is my wife. We're done. She's done. Here's some money. I'm getting her shit and we're leaving.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so he gets Drexel. Obviously, they have this great speech. Drexel, he gets jumped by Drexel and Marty. Drexel's dropping that hard R, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That wasn't the A, that was the hard R. So Drexel and Marty proceed to beat the ever-loving shit out of Clarence. Once again, this is a brutal movie.
Absolutely brutal.
So he goes, and to his credit, Clarence is he's getting his ass beat, but he's not backing down. He's still moving. So he's got him out there. He's got the bloody, beaten in the fetal position. Drexel sends Marty off to go get the ladies out, get his wenches, so to speak, out of here. And Clarence pulls out the gun he had in his sock and shoots Drexel in the ding-ding.
Yeah, that was, I cringed on that.
And then Marty hears the gunshot, double chaps Marty in the chest, because you know how you learn in Zombieland, always double tap?
Right.
And then he also double taps Drexel in the head, and then he goes to one of the ladies and, hey, go grab Alabama's stuff. So he takes a suitcase. By the way, as iconic as the Drexel role is and how this is one of the roles Gary Oldman's known for, that's it. He's done. He's dead. You don't see him the rest of the movie. He's in it like 10 minutes. That just reminds me of the fact Silence of the Lambs is one of only 3 movies in Oscar history that won the Big Five, which was Best Movie, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay.
Oh, wow.
It was that, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there's a movie in the 30s that keeps escaping me. But when it comes to, like, you can be remembered for roles that are very short.
Right.
Like, once again, this is one of Gary Oldman's most memorable roles. He's in it like 9-10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Anthony Hopkins, who everybody knows as Hannibal Lecter, won the Oscar that year for Best Actor in Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually in it not much longer than Gary Oldman. I think like 10 or 11 minutes of this entire Silence of the Lambs movie.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's so memorable, you forget. He's not really in the movie that long.
Right.
And he wins the Oscar for like 11 minutes.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Just like Gary Oldman, once you realize this, you're like, he's really not in this movie very long.
But he left a really big impression.
Everybody remembers Drexel. You ask to name a Gary Oldman role, Drexel's always at the top of the list. That's just how good he did in this role. So he heads off with the suitcase. We know what's in the suitcase. He has no idea yet.
Yeah, like I recognize that as the same suitcase from the first scene.
Yeah, and he finds out off camera. We realize later on he finds out off camera.
Uh-huh.
But he goes back to the house, battered, bloodied, and Alabama finds a romantic that, he would go to all this trouble to kill her pimp. They're out of here. And we go to a security guard locking up a gate. He's got a dog. His name is Rommel. The guard is none other than legendary actor Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, I recognize Dennis Hopper from that. Because you would show me some of the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remembered what he looked like from that.
Oh, yeah. Texas Chainsaw, but he's also done stuff like Blue Velvet, Easy Rider, Super Mario Brothers. He was Koopa.
He was one of the highlights of that awful movie.
We'll get to that. That's a 93 movie. We will get to that, trust me.
Yes.
but legendary, absolute legendary actor. He goes back to his trailer, and Clarence and Alabama are waiting by him in a purple Cadillac.
Very nice car.
Yeah, and you find out this is actually Clarence's dad. And I like how they greet each other. Like, the chemistry basically between a lot of the main actors is fantastic.
Yeah, they really meshed. All of them did.
Yeah, and there was a scene I remembered where it's like, Clifford was the name of Dennis Hopper's character. Clifford looks at Alabama and goes, "Hi, I'm his father." And she goes, "Hi, I'm his wife."
Yeah, that...
Because it was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm married." And they introduced each other, "I'm his father, I'm his wife." I thought that was kind of cute. That's something that you could actually honestly see people saying.
Yeah, well, what Clarence is here for, he's hoping to see if his dad can get some information and see what's going on, what the police are thinking about Drexel's death. They haven't talked for, I think, 2-3 years before this.
It's been a few years. And this just, because once again, Dennis Hopper is, up there as one of the best. And it's nice to see that, people sometimes sleep on Christian Slater's acting abilities. And he's, like I said, he was able to keep up with Dennis Hopper in this whole scene. And it was very well done.
Absolutely.
And then, so, they explain the situation. Clifford's going to do it to see what he can do. He can't promise anything. He's not in the police force anymore. He's a security guard, but we'll see what we can do. So we go to an office, out of nowhere, we just got to a office of some sort where a woman comes out, played by Conchata Ferrell, the late Conchata Ferrell, who she's been in all kinds of movies and TV shows, but the thing I recognize her most for, and most people do, is that was Berta from 2.5 Men. She played their housekeeper.
Mm-hmm. I know that role.
I love that show. It's a funny show. But yeah, that's Berta from 2.5 Men. And she calls up Dick Ritchie, who looks up. We see that he's played by Michael Rappaport.
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah, that's Michael Rappaport. Like, once again, these look a lot longer. A lot of these actors look a lot younger than they do, because you got to realize this was 29 years ago.
Yeah, really put that in perspective how long it's been.
Yeah, so she seems to be some sort of like agent, casting director, and she has him read a role, and it was bad.
Yeah, very bad.
And she's like, "Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you."
Yeah, that's polite a brush off as she can reasonably give.
And she wasn't even that polite. She's like, "Yeah, thanks." And we find out later, and you find out that William Shatner's on the hood for some reason. And what it was is, he talks about it later on in the movie. This was actually a role that they were going to try to reboot, and this was just for the movie. They were going to reboot the William Shatner 80s TV show, T.J. Hooker. I don't know if you ever saw this. This was basically a procedural cop show from the 80s that starred William Shatner, and a very young Heather Locklear was in the role as well.
Yeah, it's another one of those, I know of it, but I don't know anything about it.
I remember watching a few episodes here and there as a kid. I've always been a fan of like cop shows and procedurals.
Yeah, I like them too.
I remember watching it, but I couldn't tell you one episode. And I like that, speaking of reboots and remakes, when they did the first Charlie's Angels movie, the one with Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz, there's an airplane scene at the very beginning of the movie. And that seems to be the in-flight movie. Apparently they rebooted T.J. Hooker as the in-flight movie for Charlie's Angels. Yeah, it's like a quick thing, because it's the whole crack about rebooting all these old movies and shows. So in the movie reboot of Charlie's Angels, they're showing a reboot of T.J. Hooker as the in-flight movie. It's a meta nod to itself. So back to Clarence. Clifford comes in. Like, you could tell that it looks like they at least spent a day or two with Clifford. He finds out, hey, nobody knows anything, and if they do know, Drexel was in with a guy by the name of Blue Lou Boyle, was the name of the mobster.
Yeah, they think it's a drug feud, basically.
Yeah, so basically, hey, whatever you're mixed in with, leave town. If you leave town now, you'll be fine. You lucked out. Leave now. So yeah, we find out nothing in. Clifford gives the couple his blessing. He's like, "Hey, Dad, if you need anything, this is where I'm going to be staying right now." And this is when we make a call, and you find out that we're out in the middle of nowhere on a phone booth. You realize Dick is friends with Clarence, and that's who they're meeting in L.A. And he's like, "Hey, did you get the letter I sent you?" "Oh, I don't know. My roommate got the letters. Just read the letter. We're on our way." And we find out, we'll find out shortly what the letter's about. And then once they get done doing this, Clarence and Alabama have phone booth sex. Because you can see that they genuinely do love each other in this movie. Like the chemistry, the chemistry between both Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. They have good chemistry. You believe that this is a married couple. They really love each other. They seem like a young couple in love.
Yeah, it works.
It works. And now we get to my favorite scene in this whole damn movie.
And having seen it myself, I get why you love it so much.
For those that have seen it, this is the famous Sicilian Scene. We're not going to get into any of the details of what they say. This is one of those, pause here, go watch it, and then come back. You'll thank me later. So basically, what happens is Clifford comes home from work, and you see a gentleman by the name of Vincenzo Coccati, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, played by, once again, another legend, Christopher Walken, who has a lot of his goons. He seems to be the consigliere of Blue Lou Boyle, who was able to basically track down, this is where they saw Clarence. And this scene goes on for a good 10 minutes, and all it is Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken, having this conversation. And I'm not going to say anything about the conversation or what happens afterwards. Go watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. This scene was incredible.
Just when you can, like, granted, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of violence in this movie. There's a lot of brutality. There's a lot of stuff. It's R-rated for a reason. There's also an unrated cut, but it's R-rated for a reason.
Right.
But when you can have a movie full of action like this and full of violence, and you can have two legends that know what they're doing, and they can sit there and just talk, and you're just captivated.
Yeah, that's how you know your movie's doing something right.
What I always compare this to, and it's another movie I'd like to, I definitely want to cover in the future, is I'm a huge fan of heist movies anyways. Anybody that knows me knows I love a good heist movie.
Uh-huh.
The movie Heat, and this was a big deal because it had not only Al Pacino, but Robert De Niro in it. And there's a scene in it, and it's one of the most famous scenes other than the actual bank robbery, is that there's a diner, and it's basically just Al Pacino and Robert De Niro talking to each other in a diner.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a big deal because, as legendary as those gentlemen are, they had never been in the same movie together. Like, they were in The Godfather Part 2, but they were never on screen together.
Right.
So the fact that these two were on screen together and just doing what they do, this is what I compare that to.
Yeah, they killed it, basically.
Yeah, so go out of your way to watch this. Like I said, people that know this movie, it's the Sicilian Scene. People that seen it know what I'm talking about. And actually, one of the goons, and we'll see him later on here in a little bit in the movie, the name of Virgil, is played by James Gandolfini, who everybody knows played Tony in The Sopranos. One of my favorite shows. This was one of his early movie roles. And this movie role got him the role of Tony Soprano.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Uh-huh. This was one of those things where, right place, right time sort of thing. A casting director for The Sopranos, when they were looking to cast, the main cast, saw a short clip of his performance, which I would imagine it would either be, which we'll get to that scene later on in the movie, I'm sure it's one towards that, because he has small parts in it, but the main part that he's known for is a big part of the movie. One of the casting directors for The Sopranos saw this, and it's basically what helped him land this role.
I gotcha.
So this is the reason we have him as Tony Soprano. And then, so Alabama and Clarence finally arrive at Dick's place. They play a little joke on him. She's the one that answers the door. Hey, you looking for me? And we see Dick's roommate, we talked about, Floyd, who's huge stoner. He's basically stoned the entire movie. Boct, who's plays Floyd?
I couldn't tell, actually.
That's Brad Pitt.
What?
That's Brad Pitt.
Really?
So when I say this movie is stacked, we got Academy Award, I believe, winner, or at least, I don't even have to tell you, it's Brad Pitt. We know Brad Pitt. Floyd is just toasted this whole damn movie. He has no idea what's going on. He sees Dick and Clarence in Alabama. He's just like, what? Like, he's asleep and stoned, so he has no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, he just completely ripped out of his head.
Yeah, the whole movie. So they go to the hotel room where Clarence and Alabama are staying. Dick opens a suitcase, and he's blown away by all this cocaine. And it's real. It's like multiple kilos of cocaine. This is a suitcase full.
And it's a pretty big suitcase, too.
Yeah, it's a good-sized suitcase. And Clarence is like, yeah. So we find out that, in the off-screen, we find out that Clarence realizes that there's cocaine. So he's going to sell it, take the profits. Him and Alabama are going to leave together. So that letter, basically what it was, is that he wants Dick to, because, Hollywood, cocaine, it's a thing. It's not even a fucking hidden secret. It's basically Clarence wants Dick to set up a buyer. He needs to find a buyer for this cocaine.
Right.
And Dick says he does have somebody he knows from his acting class that has connection to a huge producer. And they set up at an amusement park. a meeting with the actor friend, a gentleman named Elliot Blitzer, who was played by Bronson Pinchot, who most people remember from, he was Balky in Perfect Strangers. He was Serge, the homosexual man in Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a funny story because Perfect Strangers was part of the whole TGIF lineup from ABC.
Yeah, I remember that block.
Yeah, I used to watch Perfect Strangers. It was basically, he played, I believe he was supposed to be some sort of fictional Mediterranean Greek country, moves in with his city cousin. So he had the goofy accent. And it was kind of funny, they were talking towards the end of Perfect Strangers. He had the script for True Romance.
Oh, really?
So he's reading a lot of these scenes in his goofy, balky, Greekish style accent.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they decided to have this meeting on a roller coaster.
Yep. Now, the roller coaster there is actually the Viper from Six Flags Magic Mountain, which is in that area of California.
Okay, well, there you go. There's something I didn't know. Good job on that. So basically what it was, come to find out, he figures out that the suitcase he's got $500,000 worth of cocaine.
Yeah.
In 93 money. Let me do something real quick here. I'm going to look for a conversion.
Yeah, Google should tell you pretty quickly what that is.
That's what I'm doing right now. Inflation calculator. Let's go 1993 and we're in 2022. Right now, if we had supposedly, according to this, Clarence has no reason to lie, we have $500,000 worth of cocaine.
Right.
In 2022 numbers, one, it's about a 96% inflation rate. You're looking at $981,716.26 worth of cocaine.
Holy crap.
So he has, according to today's numbers, nearly $1 million of cocaine.
Wow.
So he wants to send that for $200,000. So inflation numbers are going 2022.
Right.
He wants to sell 2022 numbers. He wants to sell nearly $1 million worth of cocaine for just under $400,000.
Right.
So anyways, and I thought it was funny. They're trying to make the coke deal on the roller coaster. He's like, hey, basically, Clarence gets slick out of nowhere. I didn't realize he was this slick. And he basically convinces Elliot to make the call. Apparently, Elliot doesn't like roller coasters because he's thrown up everywhere. It's all over his shirt. He's thrown up in a bag.
And yeah, he looks a wreck after that scene.
It was great. He's like, fine, you know what? I'll make the call. Fine. And he makes the call. It's a producer by the name of Lee Donowitz, who's played by character actor Saul Rubinek. He's been in everything. So I was like, why the fuck are you calling me on a Sunday? And then he starts, hey, I got this dude. And he's like, dude, what are you doing talking about this on my car phone?
Yeah, car phones were a real thing back before the major proliferation of cell phones.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. But it was a status symbol thing. But he's like, why the fuck are you talking to me about a coke deal on my car phone?
Right.
Idiot. And Lee wants to talk to Elliot about, hey, who's all these people? How do you know these people? Where do you get the cocaine? And he says he wants to talk to Dick. And there was a line, because he talks about Dick, because Dick's there with him. Dick's just basically happy to be there.
Right, he's just hanging on.
Yeah. The line that I laughed so hard on is Lee wants to talk to Dick, or wants to know who Dick is. And Elliot goes, you want me to suck his dick? Oh, who the hell is Dick? Oh. And I just...
I missed that somehow.
Yeah, it's like, he wants me to suck his dick? Oh, no. Who's Dick? Got it. Yeah, no, it's a friend of mine, acting class, whatever. Dick's like, hey, you can talk to him, maybe get him a role in a movie. Get me a role. Lee agrees to set up the deal. They talk about how they're going to... Clarence out of nowhere is like, hey, yeah, we're going to talk about, I'm going to help finance... I need you to help finance my Dr. Zhivago and all this stuff. Using code. While this is all going on, Virgil, James Gandolfini's character, shows up at Dick's house while Floyd's still there. Floyd, being the dumbass stoner, tells him where everybody's at. He's like, oh, thanks. Cool. Bye. Once again, James Gandolfini still had his presence from Tony Soprano. He had that presence in this movie. Like, you can honestly see why he became Tony.
Yeah.
They go back to the hotel, and Alabama's like, or Clarence like, hey, I'm gonna go get some food. He goes to get a couple of chili cheeseburgers. Everything, we're spending this money, and he's like, hey, go back to the room. I'll go get some food. Alabama walks into the motel room. Virgil's waiting there with Shoddy, and he's like, look, I'm here for the cocaine. Alabama starts playing coy. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Da 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 da. And this scene is interspersed with Clarence still in love. You can tell he loves her. Still in love, even if she's not around. Goes out to one of those famous L.A. corner hamburger stands to get some burgers, fries, and everything.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Virgil beats the ever-loving shit out of Alabama. This is brutal.
Yeah, she gets beaten bloody.
Bloody, battered. He throws her from pillar to post through the. He uses the motel room as a weapon. Like because basically she's not telling him, and so he's like, I'm gonna beat it out of you, and he proceeds to beat her back, and he this is like I said, this is not a kid's movie.
No, not even remotely.
And then she's able to get back. She's got a corkscrew. She jabs it into his foot. She fights back. She beats him with the toilet lid, and then she's able to grab his shotgun and empty it into him. And
then she starts beating him with it as a blunt instrument.
Well, yeah, I mean, she kind of had a good reason to.
You say, yeah, like, definitely fight or flight response at this point.
Yeah, Clarence comes back. He sees everything that happened. He sees the dead body. They're out. He peels out.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Elliot, who's in a sports car. You think he's alone.
You'd say, yeah, he's driving wild.
Come to find out, because all of a sudden a cop pulls him over. By the way, he's got one of the kilos of cocaine with him.
Yeah?
Dumbass.
Not the smartest thing.
No. One of the reasons he's driving erratically, my man's getting roadhead.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me when I saw the woman pop up.
Boop. Because she's like, what's going on? He's like, hey, just shut up. Put this in your purse. Put this in your purse. She's like, no. He's like, just shut the fuck up. Put this in your purse. Because, he's got a bag of cocaine with him.
Yeah.
And he's like they're fighting with it, and it just pops open. Cocaine sprays everywhere. He looks like the end of Tony Montana at the end of Scarface.
And of course, this all happens right as the police officer is walking up to his car.
Yep, so obviously he gets arrested, and we see him going to jail. He's interrogated by two detectives played by Tom Sizemore and Chris Penn, who is the late Chris Penn, who's been in all kinds of movies that I remember. He was also in Reservoir Dogs. He was a black belt in karate, and he was also in the movie Best of the Best. It was a kickboxing movie.
Oh, really?
It was actually in the first two.
Cool.
But they're playing the detectives, and they're just...
So, yeah, they're going bad cop on this guy.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you everything. And they go into their lieutenant's office and be like, look, we got him dead to rights. This dude flipped. He's going to wear a wire. Like, we got him. He just basically squealed. They basically just flinched at him and he squealed. He folded like origami. And then, for those that watch a lot of the 80s and 90s movies, it's an uncredited role, but their lieutenant was played by Ed Lauter, who's been in all kinds of stuff.
So yeah, the lie Clarence told to Lee earlier, it's spiraling out of control. What he told Lee was that a police friend of his stole the cocaine out of the lockup, and then the police officers think that this happened locally, so they're talking about getting internal affairs in on this.
Yeah, so like, this is everybody, a situation like this, it's going to spiral, and it's about to spiral fast.
Yeah, very fast.
Before then, we have one little last moment of respite where Clarence is hiding him in Alabama out by an airport. He's tending to her wounds. He's like, look, we're going to finish this. We're taking the money. We're out.
Yeah.
And we find out, and this is the moment where you're just like, aw. Because everybody's setting up to leave. They're at Dick's house. Everybody's getting ready to leave. And you find out that Dick got the part.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen this movie, this is a very, hey, I'm 2 days away from retirement type. You're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, God, he got the part. I see it coming. Oh, God. This is like the trope of the cop's 2 days away from his retirement. You kind of feel that something's going to bad happen to Dick. So, we start getting into the climax of the movie. Cocotti's crew comes in. You see a very quick scene where Cocotti's crew is there in L.A. They have a mattress covered in guns, pistols, shotguns, everything. They're loading up the guns. Elliot's getting his wires set. So Dick, Clarence, and Alabama meet Elliot in the lobby. Dick's just there because he said he would get a talk with the producer. So Dick's I'm just here for a good time. Clarence stops the elevator and he puts a gun to Elliot's head. He knows something's up. Something's up. And you see another room where the cops are all set up and they're waiting for... They're hearing all this because he said Clarence has a wire. And they're like, oh fuck, this is messed up. This is bad.
Yeah, Elliot has the wire.
Excuse me, thank you, Elliot. Clarence stopped the elevator. Elliot has the wire. Apologize.
Yeah.
But the cops are like, oh god, this is bad. Somehow, Elliot gets through it. Somehow, I'm sure that's why he wore his brown pants today. It's a whole.
Yeah, pants to be darkened.
Yeah, he wore his brown pants ahead of time for a reason. So as this is going on, everybody enters the hotel suite. They're playing a massive, a movie, like on a big war movie on a massive screen.
Yeah.
Lee and Clarence start breaking the ice. They start talking to movies. And I found this funny. You had the Lee's two guards, his henchmen.
Uh-huh.
You had the larger blonde gentleman. I believe his name was, let me pull it up here. Boris. He was the blonde one, the bigger dude. He was a man named Eric Allen Kramer, who is in a lot of stuff that people recognize. If he looks familiar, he was Little John in Robin Hood Men in Tights, which came out the same year as this.
Oh, really?
He was in American Wedding. Anybody sees American Wedding? That was the gay man that Stifler got into the dance-off with that wore assless chaps to the Meet the Parents dinner.
Oh, my.
And for those that watch Disney Channel, like he's been acting since the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that watch the Disney Channel, you see all these movies. He's in a lot of grown-up stuff.
Right.
He was the dad in Good Luck Charlie.
Really?
He was the father in Good Luck Charlie. He also did Jesse, the Thundermans. But a lot of kids' movies, but it's just like, oh, this guy ended up playing the dad in Good Luck Charlie, and now he's got a submachine gun.
Yeah.
I love finding, it's like, oh, this guy, oh, he did this? Oh, he was also in they had those live-action Incredible Hulk movies that came out with the Lou Ferrigno. He was in one of them. He played Thor in the one that had Thor in it. I believe it was the first movie.
Oh, cool.
So he's also Thor. And I was like, oh, like, it's one of those where you're like, oh god, he was in that. He was that too, and that. Like, that's why I love character actors. You're like, oh shit, I know that guy from that movie. That's where I know him from.
Right.
Yeah. So they go in there, they start talking movies.
There's a reference to a movie that Lee Donowitz produced, Coming Home in a Body Bag, which was about the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and he's talking about how they want to make sequels, and like they were like, oh, what do the other guys want to name the movie? Body Bags 2. He's like, oh, that's original.
Right.
So while this is going on, they're trying to, make the deal. Kokati's men show up. They head up to the room.
Yeah, and then the police and Kokati's men, they run smack dab into each other.
Yeah, because before this, Clarence goes off to the bathroom. He's like, hey, I'm going to rub some water on my face. Elvis is talking to him again. The Elvis vision's there again.
Right.
Dick and Alabama are legit in the middle of the room. They're caught in the middle of this.
Oh, yeah.
So Kokati's men show up. Cops realize that everything's going to shit. The cops show up, and there's this gigantic Mexican standoff between Kokati's goons, the cops, Lee's guys. Like, this is how Lee finds out that Elliot was the snitch. He was the snitch because the cop recognized him, and he's like, you motherfucker.
Yep.
And then bullets start flying.
And it's just pretty much everybody dies.
Yeah, like Clarence gets shot. Dick runs off. So you would almost expect, he's like, hey, I just got the part. Let's go do this drug deal. You expect Dick's gonna die.
Yeah, you would expect that.
No, so nice little twist right there. He runs off. As far as we know, he got the part. And then Alabama sees that Clarence got shot. And obviously, that's her husband. Out of love, she takes the gun and shoots the remaining cop, which was Chris Penn's character, who was the one that shot Clarence.
Right.
So she runs off, and she's obviously distraught. Her husband just died. It basically what it was, it almost killed him. It grazed him. It grazed him in the temple. You can see where the graze wound is on his temple.
Yeah.
He obviously wakes up, beat the all hell, and you got the cops there. You got the gangsters in the lobby. Basically, anybody that wasn't Alabama, Dick, or Clarence are dead.
Yeah, just absolute bloodbath.
And I love it when they do that stuff in slow motion. You had the feathers flying, fantastic. Kind of like, almost like the way I look at it is that not only was that kind of stuff a Tony Scott tradition thing, it was like he did a lot of this sort of thing too, but it also reminded me of, because we're going to like martial arts and kung fu movies and like the Hong Kong style.
Uh-huh.
John Woo would do slow motion shots like that too.
Yeah, that was where my mind went. I've seen clips of his movies, but I've never actually sat down and watched one.
Yeah, so it's kind of, to me, I know it's a Tony Scott trademark as well, but it's kind of like, it's sort of kind of a thing where it's like he's also giving a nod to John Woo at the same time. Basically, their trademarks coincided and it just worked well.
Right.
They're able to take them, they leave the drugs because obviously the drugs are a cloud.
Yeah, the drugs got blown to bits in the shootout.
So, but Alabama and Clarence take the money. They're able to sneak out, even as fucked up as Clarence is. They're able to sneak out of the hotel because of all the hoopla going on, and they leave. They're out. They go to Mexico. They talk about how, Alabama has a voiceover where she talks about, they have the life they want, and they have a son.
Yeah, you see Clarence playing with him in the background.
What did they name the son?
What did they name the son?
Elvis.
Oh, of course. How could I possibly have missed that?
Fade to black. So, Bach, my man, everybody knows how much I love this movie. And I know for a fact this is not your type of movie. You don't watch a lot of these kind of movies. The subject matter is really not your thing.
No, not really.
But this is what we kind of want to do with the podcast. Have you watched movies you may not be your cup of tea or TV shows, and then you introduce me to stuff that may not be my cup of tea. Like, I'm not a big science fiction guy, and I know we're going to get into some science fiction later.
Yeah, it's a sharing experience.
Exactly. This is what we wanted to do. What did you think your first time ever seeing True Romance?
I really enjoyed it, actually, a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Would you watch it again?
Yes.
So, speaking of watching, we don't pirate here. There are multiple ways to watch this movie. We can watch this YouTube. You can run it on YouTube. You can run it on Amazon Prime. You can also watch it for free on Tubi. I love Tubi.
Yeah, that was where I watched it.
I ended up watching it there as well. Tubi, for those that don't know Tubi, it is a streaming site, movies, TV shows, this, that, and the other. Completely free.
Commercial supported, yes, but still free.
That's how you get it for free. I'm like, if you can watch a commercial on a TV show, great. We're not sponsored by Tubi yet. And like, I've watched a lot of TV shows. I've watched some TV shows in there. What I like about it is that, and you notice this when they did the movie, they tried to put the commercial breaks in logical breaks in the movie.
The commercials were well placed. Like they didn't detract.
No, and then what they do for I also know I used to watch that show Hunter from the 80s. It was a 80s cop show. When they tried to do the commercial breaks for like episodic television, they tried to put them where the commercial breaks would be anyways.
Right.
So you really don't notice it. And God, if you're watching it for free, watch some damn commercials.
Absolutely.
So, once again, we like to play the box office guessing game. And you're 0 for 2.
Indeed.
Let's see if we can get you 1 for 3. So, in watching this movie, the amount of actors that are in this movie, how much of a cult classic it's became, everything you know about it now. It had a movie budget of $12.5 million.
Okay.
Sir, you have 3 guesses.
Gonna start at 30 million.
Lower. Guess 2.
15 million.
Lower. Guess 3.
5 million.
Nope. This movie, with a budget of 12.5, bombed at the box office with a box office of 12.6. Did not make its money back.
Oh, man.
Because you got to consider that movie budget was production costs. You got to consider editing, post-production, marketing, everything. I've heard basically rule of thumb is that when it comes to marketing and post-production, you double the movie budget.
Gotcha.
So it did not even come close to making its money back. This was a massive box office bomb.
Which is really unfortunate because this was a very good movie. Like I've said, I grade on a letter scale most of the time. I'd give this a solid B+.
A- for me, only because this is my kind of wheelhouse. Big fan of the actors, the director, the writer. This movie was made for me.
Right.
But for somebody who doesn't watch these type of movies and is not a fan of these type of movies, a B+ is very highly regarded.
Yes, yes.
So I would almost consider that the same wheelhouse as me.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But that's why I'm glad, you had like television, video and DVD release. This is what basically brought this, This movie's a cult classic. This is a very well-regarded movie.
And I can see why.
It's one of those, you see a lot of times where when a movie first comes out, it bombs, it's not well-regarded, people don't like it. And then once it ages well. And then it becomes more and more well-regarded. Newer critics like it. It becomes well respected and regarded. And this is what happened to this movie. It's a very well regarded cult classic.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So that is episode 6 of Dropkicks and Attractions. Thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and give you the next schedule. Next episode, episode 7, is Raw, Monday Night Raw of January 25th, 1993. The fallout from the Royal Rumble, which we spoke about last episode, as well as WCW Saturday Night of January 30th, 1993. So we're closing out January. And then episode 8 is our first television show we're doing. So, how we do television shows is that, especially with 93, we're starting with first seasons, because they're, 92, 91, 90, whatever, had a lot of great shows, but it would be kind of hard for us to try to discuss the show and then discuss the 1993 show. So, we're only, at least with 93, we're only starting with first seasons of shows.
Right.
And there's absolutely there's a killer's row of shows that debuted in 93.
Oh, yeah, absolute list of gems.
So, we are doing, not only is it our first television show, it's our first animated feature this year. We are doing the SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron. So we're going from True Romance to Cartoon Cats and Fighter Jets.
Yeah, I saw a lot of SWAT Cats when I grew growing up, but I don't remember much of it. So this will be fun to revisit.
Exactly. Like, I know it was on Boomerang for a while, and I watched it when it was on TV the first time. I know the gist. It's cats, janitors by day, fighter pilots by night.
Right.
It's goofy. It's a kid's cartoon. I just like that we're going from True Romance to kid's cartoon about fighter cats.
Yeah, incongruity. I get you.
Yeah, just that way you can see the kind of stuff that came out in 93.
Yeah, exactly.
And 94, 95, so on. You can find the podcast on Twitter at capital D and capital A Podcast 1. We are on YouTube every Friday. Every Saturday, we're on Stitcher, Spotify. We're always looking to find new podcast places. Please let us know if there's places you would like to have us at. I am on all the social medias at Xander Invictus.
And I am on all the socials at BigBoct. That's Boct with a C.
So, thank you guys very much for being here for episode 6, and we will see you next week for the Dropkicks of DNA.
Take care, everybody.